I'm trying to also keep an eye if I'm sort of depositing any wax on my cup and working hard not to do that. And if I do, nudging it off before it becomes affixed. And then over here, I don't need to clear any of that off, but I do need to start to sort of make it look good, whatever that means. All right, so I've cleaned it off. I'm not going to make it look too tidy because it's going to continue to sort of look worse before it looks better. But what I want to make sure is that I'm not sort of exploding the wax too much onto the form that I'm connecting it to. So I'm just going to go back around and just pull off any wax that's really sort of crawled onto the cup too much. All right, that's looking pretty good. And now it's pretty much on there. I'm not super convinced of its forever stability, and it's certainly looking like a dog's breakfast. So here's when I'm going to come in with my wax welding sticks, and I'm going to create a little cradle. You can use paper towels or newspaper. I have these nylon stockings at hand, and I'm doing this so if I press into it, I'm not pressing into the hard board, but instead I'm sort of pressing into something soft, and it's a little bit more of a cradle. And now I'm going to use the Fordham and my welding stick, and I'm going to just melt into that little area. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. It's looking pretty good. And this is a process that takes just a little bit of time and patience, so don't rush it. Sort of spreading and pushing, and it's sort of adding just that last little bit of wax that I need in that area after the glue. I'm going to pull it off. And making sure that that connection is really good. I'm going to smear a little bit on. If the wax welder, if the Fordham is going too slow for you, you can also take one of your welding sticks and just warm it up between your fingers. I want you to know that if you do it this way, the weld is not going to be as strong because it's just going to be sort of soft, sort of warm-ish wax against warm-ish wax. The weld will be much, much stronger if and when you use the Fordham to connect them because it actually melts it. But, so I showed you how to do that, now I'm going to show you how to do this. You're going to have to make some decisions in terms of stability with the techniques that you use. So filling in that little area with my warmer wax, I'm going to pull it off here, I'm going to ball it up so it's a little thicker and go back. I'm becoming aware that my fingers are getting warm just from all the use, and I'm seeing that I'm putting down a little texture of fingerprint on my cup. So this is also a reason to maybe potentially pause the handwork and go back to working with the Fordham so it's depositing heat mechanically rather than physically. And I can smooth some areas that my fingers didn't do very well on. Really making that connection to the cup looking good. I'll do the other side and then we'll tackle the underneath the nose. Oof, this side is looking crazy. So this side is pretty good. It has like a nice sheerness to the cup. The connection here and here is like this nice vertical line. So I'm actually going to take my little wax welding stick and make it narrower, because I don't think I need quite as much material to make it look nice and to do that final connect. So I'm going to press that in mechanically with my hands, not mechanically, physically with my hands. Start the smoothing out process and then finish it up with the Fordham. This is such a great little tool. So I'm starting with the area that where the cup connects to really make sure that is firmly melted in, and then I'm going to connect the rest of the wax welding stick up to the nose. And I can show you a little closer. A good initial wax weld has that sort of scalloped look. It's not so dissimilar to a, this is a funny object, not so dissimilar to a regular welding situation. So that looks pretty good. I'm feeling confident. I'm gonna do the top apex of the nose, where the bridge starts, and then I'm going to finish the bottom. I don't want to add a lot of material up here, so again, I'm gonna just sort of narrow one of my welding sticks and pop it on there, fix it initially with my fingers, and then finish the affixing with the Fordham. I also want to point out that the Fordham makes really beautiful patterns in the wax. So if you're thinking about wanting to sculpt or draw into the wax, this is a really useful tool to experiment some processes or some mark making processes with. There's a little dent right here, so I'm going to drag some wax from the back to fill it in, and then I'll smooth it over at the end. Okay, so that looks nice and connected. I'll show you a little closer. Still looks a little rough, but we're gonna work on that. Like I said, it's gonna look bad before it looks good. So the last thing we'll do here is just finish this up, and this is really quite like an egregious looking thing at the moment, which, you know, could be interesting if you want sort of a monster, but I want to make it look a little tidier. So I'm actually going to reach into this to this little silicone bowl. The wax is still pretty warm in here, so I can grab some warm wax that's still pretty soft. Try not to get my fingers too goopy. I'm going to fill in some of this area a little bit more. I'm going to touch the cup with a finger that wasn't just pre-warmed by the wax, so I'm not going to ruin anything too badly. I'm going to continue to fill in that area. If my fingers get too goopy, usually I have a little towel or a paper towel in my pocket. And I just kind of rub my fingers over it to remove any waxy residue so I can smooth things out a bit better. Paper towels work fine, or these rags. All right, so I filled that in. I'm gonna again use the Fordham just to smooth it out nicely. You can experiment with the different handholds for the Fordham. Also, the Fordham has a number of different attachments for the heating element. What would you call that? The pen top? Different shapes, etc. that will sort of make different marks. I really like this flat knife shape, but y'all should play with everything they got and sort of figure out what works best for you. Using the Fordham now to smooth out that additional wax that I just added. And marry it to the side. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. It's very satisfying. Smoothing out and then marrying it to the sides. And I'm seeing a spot that I missed, sort of doing a good connection from the side weld to the cup. So I'm gonna connect that now. Little shaping. Doing more of an overall look now, I can start doing some smoothing. There's like this weird asymmetry on the nose that I'm just gonna roll with. So now I'm gonna start using this tool to smooth out some of my rougher scalloping marks. This will probably be the last pass I use for the Fordham, for the wax welder. And then I'll start going to some of the hand tools to finish. And also just my fingers. Also know that you can use the Fordham for sculpting. So if you want to, say, shave off a little bit of material, not just smooth, you can do that by digging in deeper and angling your blade differently, and it'll actually remove material really beautifully, like a hot knife through butter, except it's a hot knife through wax. Delicious. Trying not to let the waste wax touch back on my cup. All right, that's looking pretty good. Maybe I want to do just a little bit more shaping, even though I said I wouldn't, because now I said the word symmetry and it's popped into my brain and I need it, or a version of it. So I'm gonna carve a little bit on this side too. Maybe make the nose connection just a little bit more like a teardrop, a little less like an ogre. Carve away a little bit more right here, and then I think I'm gonna cut myself off from fussing anymore. I'm also sort of chamfering this edge a bit. Trying not to actually touch the side of the nose, which I did just then and made a little mark. All right, that's looking cool. Cool, cool. So now it's a little bit more even, and you can see this side sort of slopes down more to the cup. This side has a little slightly taller wall. So now I'm going to fix that side too. Working symmetrically is the worst or the best. Great. All right, first step.